August 17, 1943. 230 B-17 flying fortresses crossed into German airspace. Their target, the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt, deep in Germany, 350 miles from England, beyond the range of any Allied fighter. The bomber crews flew alone. 60 bombers never came home that day. 600 men, dead, captured, or missing. The survivors had a name for missions like this, flying coffins, because, without fighter escort, every mission was suicide. But in 1944, something changed. A silver fighter with a distinctive bubble canopy began appearing over Germany, with drop tanks hanging from its wings, flying deeper than anyone thought possible. The bomber crews had a new name for them, Little Friends. This is the story of the fighter that could reach Berlin and back, and the men who flew it, not to hunt glory, but to bring their friends home alive. 1942. The United States Army Air Forces had a doctrine: the bomber will always get through. Strategic bombing would win the war. Precision strikes on German industry. Daylight raids for accuracy. There was just one problem: German fighters. Every deep raid into Germany meant 5% to 10% losses, sometimes more. At that rate, entire bomb groups were being wiped out every 10 missions. The math was simple and brutal. No bomber crew could survive their required 25-mission tour. Age 84. We knew the odds. Everyone knew. You didn't talk about it, but when you walked to your aircraft, you were saying goodbye to guys who wouldn't come back. Every mission, someone didn't come back. The Army Air Forces needed a long-range fighter, something that could escort bombers all the way to the target. Stay with them during the bomb run, fight off German interceptors, then escort them home. 350 miles each way, 700 miles total. Plus combat time over target. No fighter in the world could do that. Until one did. The P-51 Mustang started as an unwanted stepchild. 1940. The British were desperate for fighters. They approached North American aviation. Can you build us more P-40s? North American's chief designer, Edgar Schmood, said no. Instead, he said, give us 120 days, we'll design you something better. The British thought he was insane. Design a completely new fighter in 4 months? Impossible. 102 days later, the prototype rolled out. It was fast, beautiful, aerodynamically perfect. But it had one fatal flaw: the Allison engine. Above 15,000 feet, it lost power. German fighters operated at 25,000 feet. The early P-51s were useless as high-altitude escorts. The Luftwaffe pilots called it the bastard airplane. Fast at low altitude, helpless where it mattered. Then, in 1942, someone had an idea. What if they replaced the Allison with a British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the same engine that powered the Spitfire, but supercharged for high altitude? December 1942, the first Merlin-powered Mustang flew. At 30,000 feet, it was faster than any German fighter. It could outturn a Messerschmitt, outdive a Focke-Wulf. But the real miracle was range. With two 75-gallon drop tanks, the P-51 could fly 850 miles. More with better fuel management. Suddenly, Berlin was in reach. The bomber crews were about to get their little friends. December 1943. The 354th Fighter Group received their first P-51s. The pilots were skeptical. They'd been flying P-47 Thunderbolts, rugged, powerful, could take incredible damage. The Mustang looked fragile in comparison. Thin wings, liquid-cooled engine, one bullet in the radiator and you were done. Colonel Don Blakesley recorded 1985. First time I saw it, I thought, they want us to escort bombers in TH-8. It looked like a racer, not a fighter. Then I flew it. He smiles. 5 minutes in the air, and I knew this was the aircraft that would win the war. December 5th, 1943. First operational mission. Target: German airfields in France. The P-51s would fly ahead of the bombers, clear the sky, then join them for the return flight. 48 Mustangs took off that morning. Over France, they encountered Luftwaffe fighters, Bf-219s and few W-190s. Germany's best. The P-51 pilots discovered something. Their aircraft could do things the Germans couldn't match. Tight turns at high speed, acceleration in a dive, and most importantly, the range to chase Germans all the way home. That first mission, 3 German fighters destroyed, 0 P-51s lost. But the real success wasn't the kills. It was the bomber crews. Bomber, pilot, testimony, 1944 report. We saw them coming, those beautiful silver aircraft. One waggled his wings at us, like saying, "We've got you now." For the first time in months, we felt like we might actually make it home. Every bomber returned that day, every single one. The little friends had arrived. March 3, 1944, General Jimmy Doolittle issued a directive, escort bombers to Berlin. Berlin, the German capital. 950 miles from England. Deeper than any Allied aircraft had flown. The bomber crews called it Big B. It was the ultimate test. March 4, 1944, 4:03 a.m. Over 600 bombers prepared for launch, heading to Berlin, escorting them, the 4th Fighter Group. Flying P-51 Mustangs. Colonel Don Blakesley led the 4th Group that day. His orders were clear: stay with the bombers, no matter what. Your job isn't to shoot down Germans. Your job is to bring our boys home. The fighters met the bombers over Belgium. 30 P-51s for every box of bombers. Flying above, below, and alongside, a protective cocoon of silver fighters. The Germans were waiting. Luftwaffe controllers watched the formations on radar. They scrambled every available fighter, over 200 interceptors. This would be the biggest air battle over Germany yet. The P-51 pilots saw them coming, Bf-29s diving from above, W-190s attacking from the flanks. Every instinct said, break formation, attack. But Blakesley's voice came over the radio. Blakesley recorded radio transmission. Stay with the bombers. That's an order. Anyone who leaves formation answers to me. The Mustang pilots held their positions. Only when German fighters directly threatened the bombers did they engage. The discipline saved lives, because every P-51 that left to chase a kill was one less protecting the bomber crews. 12:47 p.m., the bombers reached Berlin. Flak filled the sky. German fighters pressed their attacks, but the P-51s were there. Every single bomber had fighter escort, all the way to the target, something that had never happened before. The return flight was brutal. German fighters, low on fuel but determined, made suicide runs at the bomber formations. The P-51s met them head-on. By the time they crossed back into Allied territory, the sky was empty of German fighters. The bomber crews landed first, then the fighters. The ground crews counted 27 bombers lost that day. Terrible. But without escort? Historical data suggested over 100 would have been lost. The P-51s had saved 70 bombers, 700 lives. That night, in the officers' club, bomber pilots bought drinks for fighter pilots. The title, Little Friends, became official that day, because those silver Mustangs hadn't just escorted them, they'd brought them home. But not everyone came home. The P-51 could reach Berlin and back, but it couldn't make its pilots invincible. Lieutenant Robert L. Johnson, 23 years old, from Cincinnati, Ohio, April 8, 1944, his 15th mission, target, aircraft factories at Brunswick, Germany. Over Germany, his flight encountered a formation of BFWS 109s. Johnson's aircraft was hit in the initial pass, coolant leak. The Merlin engine's weakness. Without coolant, the engine would overheat and seize. He had maybe 10 minutes. His wingman, Lieutenant Charles Anderson, stayed with him. Charles Anderson, testimony, 1945. I told him, "Bob, you need to bail out. You're not going to make it home." He said, "I can see the channel. I can make it. Just stay with me, Charlie." 2 P-51s, alone over enemy territory. One smoking badly. German fighters saw them. 2 crippled American fighters. Easy targets. 4 W-190s dove to attack. Anderson turned to meet them, 1 against 4. He shot down 2, damaged a third. The fourth broke off. But when Anderson looked back, Johnson's P-51 was spinning down. Anderson. Testimony. I called him on the radio. Over and over. Bob, get out. Bail out. No response. I watched him go down, near a town called Uelzen. I circled until I saw the crash. No parachute. I had to leave him there. Fuel was low. I flew home, alone. Lieutenant Robert L. Johnson's aircraft crashed in a German field. He died on impact. He was buried by German soldiers. His family received a telegram 3 weeks later. His mother, Sarah Johnson, kept his last letter home. It's in the Air Force Museum archives now. Letter text. Dear Mom, don't worry about me. The P-51 is the best fighter in the sky, and I'm getting good at this. I'm protecting the bomber boys. That's what matters. Some of them have kids back home. If I can help one of them see their children again, that's worth everything. Love, Bobby. He never saw his 24th birthday. But because of pilots like Robert Johnson, hundreds of bomber crewmen did make it home, did see their children again. The little friends paid a price. During World War II, 2,520 P-51 Mustang pilots were killed in action over Europe. Each one was someone's son. Many were brothers, husbands, fathers. These are some of their stories. Lieutenant Robert L. Johnson, age 23, killed April 8, 1944, near Uelzen, Germany, Cincinnati, Ohio. Major George E. Preddy, age 25, killed December 25, 1944, Christmas Day, by friendly fire near Liège, Belgium. And 2,505 more. Each one had a family. Each one had dreams. Each one gave everything, we remember. But for those who survived, the bond between bomber crews and fighter pilots became unbreakable. They weren't just comrades, they were brothers, bound by shared danger, mutual dependence, and trust. Bomber Navigator, Franka Murphy, age 82, filmed 1988. You have to understand what it meant. We'd been flying missions for months, watching friends die, watching aircraft explode. Every mission we knew, we might not come back. Then the P-51s arrived. First time we saw them beside us, over Germany, I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it, because I knew someone was protecting us. Someone cared if we lived or died. The relationship went beyond professional duty. Fighter pilots learned the names of bomber crews. Bomber crews learned which fighter groups were escort. They developed systems. If a bomber was badly damaged, fighters would stay with it, all the way home, even if it meant flying slow. Becoming vulnerable, using precious fuel. Fighter pilot. Charles Yeager, testimony, 1986. I once escorted a B-17 for 200 miles. Both his engines on one side were out. He was losing altitude, flying at maybe 150 miles per hour. I could have left him, gone back to the fight. But I looked in my cockpit mirror and I could see the pilot. Young kid, maybe 20 years old. I thought that could be my little brother, so I stayed. We made it across the channel together. He landed at an emergency field. Barely. Never learned his name. But I'd do it again, every time. After missions, bomber crews would find their escorts, thank them, buy them drinks, share cigarettes. Some friendships lasted decades. After the war, they'd meet at reunions, old men by then, but when they saw each other, they remembered. Bomber Gunner. Cunner testimony, reunion footage, 1985. That's Jerry Henderson. He shot down the 109 that was on our tail. May 23, 1944. Over France. I wouldn't be here without him. My kids wouldn't exist. My grandchildren wouldn't exist. Everything I have, I owe to that man. He saved my life. That was the real story of the little friends. Not the victories, not the glory, but the lives saved. The families that stayed whole, the futures that were possible, because someone was watching over them.